you're coming here as expansion team to Tampa Bay, your thoughts, your reservations, maybe
like hockey in the South.
What did you think coming here?
It was just such a new market, and nobody, we were playing out at the fairgrounds, and the newspapers are kind of trying to figure it out and everything. But fans were unbelievable, and the community was great, and what they've done, it's been fun to follow it. Right from the new rink and what the ownership has done down here, and I mean, just completely changed downtown. We lived downtown for 3 years, and yeah, it's completely different, and it's kind of followed from the team. So the imprint on this city it's amazing.
Bolts Nation, welcome to another episode of the Bolts Block Party, powered by our friends at Highlight IPA, Wolfie and Kobe, and we are joined by two other legends from our Tampa Bay Lightning, the original crew. We have the amazing Enrico Ciccone and Danton Cole here with us, gentlemen. Thank you both for taking the time. We know it's a event-filled, packed weekend here with your former players, and we're excited that you guys have taken the time to hop on the block party with us. And Kobe and myself, we love to give our newer fans a glimpse and insight to some of the guys that paved the way, right? And so you guys are two of those individuals, and so we're glad that you're here this weekend. Have you had a chance to hang out with Brad since you guys have been here? And obviously the big day tonight with him and Peckham getting into the hall.
Yeah, not yet. We were texting yesterday, and it was a shocker. He was out on the golf course. And we were talking, so I couldn't believe it. But so yeah, I talked to him a little bit. Last time I was in town, we got to spend some time with him and Carrie, and looking forward to it tonight and tomorrow. Yeah.
Did you guys get to interact much with Rick Peckham back in the day at all? Or
yeah, we did. We did, because it wasn't like and Kobe can say it, but when you play other cities, there's a lot of media.
Yes.
I played in Montreal, it's packed with media. But here it was more like kind of very secluded. There was like the relations with the guy with the media was very, very close, Maybe it's something that you don't have with other teams. So
the staffs are definitely smaller, right? Like you had the head coach, and then you had an assistant coach.
Yeah.
You had a medical trainer and one athletic or one equipment trainer and athletic trainer. Like that was it. It was just a small circle. And I think you guys, from all the stories we heard, and we talked to Rammer, and like you guys were a tight knit group.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We were very, very, very close and very, very family orientated. I'm not saying it's not the same way today, but now it's like big machine.
Sure.
It's like so it's okay because the technology is there now. But back then it was very tight knit. Yeah.
So Enrico, would you have considered yourself one of the bad boys of hockey in your career? I mean, looking just back on YouTube clips and finding some of your old fights. I mean, I actually was surprised to see you fighting Mike Hartman, who's a Bolts player when you were a member of the Stars. Also, I mean, obviously I would consider you a bad boy. I'm sure Kobe would as well. I mean, you led the league in penalty minutes with 225 in the 94-95 season, amassed almost 1,500 penalty minutes in your career. But again, you guys in your era, it was a different era back then of hockey than it is today. But are you still down with the fighting aspect of the game today because it was such a big part back then? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Thanks for bringing that up. But you know that I scored against Patrick Roy and Dominic Hasek also. Should have bring that up.
I went, guys.
The first.
No, it wasn't there.
That was before. There wasn't video back then, so we don't have it. But.
Well, actually, it's funny that.
How did those goals go in? By the way, I'm just super curious.
Hey, there were good goals, man. It was a first playoff goal was when playing Chicago against Patrick.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, that's the year that what's his name, Jeremy Roenick.
Oh, yeah.
When he called Patrick Roy after he couldn't stop a beach ball, and he said, "I can't hear him. I got 2 Stanley Cup rings in my head," and we lost the next 3 straight. But that's a long story. I could come back and tell you the whole story. But thanks for the question. Actually, yeah, I don't think with everything that we're seeing with fighting, concussions and the long-term injuries, effects on our brain, and you see, Chris Simon last year and all the guys that having a hard time with with CTE and all that, I don't think there's a place for that anymore because we know. Back then, we didn't know better, and I'm proud to say that, I don't know if you know, but I'm an elected official now in Quebec.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
And I put down a bill that there's no more fighting junior hockey in Quebec. If under 16, under 18 years old. So I'm very proud of that. So in the major junior hockey in Quebec, if you fight, you're out of the game. I think that's a statement that we have to give the kids, they and the parents.
Do you think that because of your status and your history, do you think you carry extra weight when you push a bill like that forward?
Well, I think that it was important for me to do it, to say it, because I know I got the effect. We all live with we were talking before, we talked to each other about the effect of our careers and our bodies.
Yeah.
But we still got mental effects, and a lot of people called me a hypocrite for doing that because they say you made a lot of money fighting. But now my role as a legislator is to protect the younger generation. With what we know now, and I'm not going to stand there and not to do anything. But
right.
We have to do that. We have to do
so you are in politics. What, first of all, made you transition from hockey to politics, but what also are the attributes that maybe you were able to take from hockey and put that towards politics? Well,
it's all about, your career, your history, about junior hockey, about the traveling, the education, player safety. It's all about that after your career, you see what the toll it was on you, and you try to just change things, try to make things better for the next generation. Not to protect them too much, they're still going to be tough guys to be in the NHL, but still just to not to repeat what we did was wrong. Because, like three of us today, if we have a problem with whatever problems we have in our lives, with mental problems or anything, we have a phone number. We call the NHL alumni, and they will come and help us.
Sure.
But 99.9% of kids that play hockey in this world will not have that support. And that's why we have to work for them.
Love that.
Dan, and you have a unique role in this whole thing too, with the safety and your role with the USHL. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's real similar to what Chico's talking about. And you're trying to, if you watch the NHL game now, I mean, it's a fantastic game, obviously a lot different than it used to be, but the speed that it's played on it and the plays that guys make, and it's still a physical game. I mean, it's a hard game, and it's played by men, but a lot of the getting the garbage out of it, and and the hits from behind and playing. And so I was always, coaching wise, real interested in that. And I think that if you can have guys like Chico, though, can bring it up, because that brings so much more credibility to it in terms of saying, hey, that if we can get that aspect of the game out of it. So we look at clips. We did it this morning. We go through all the games, certain penalties, and kind of look at the suspensions, and the game's just better cleaning that part up. And I think, it's just like raising kids. If you set a good standard and you set it early and often, it really takes care of itself. And you look at any changes they've done in the NHL, when they made the equipment smaller for the goalies, well, it took a little bit, and then didn't take the goalies long to get back to being really good and stopping everybody. So I think when guys get used to it and they grow up with it playing that way, it's just better for the game without getting rid of the physicality, because that is a huge part of it.
Well, and I think players are so adaptable. They can change. They will change. We saw that even after the 94 or 2004 lockout. There was a lot of rule changes that came into place after that full season was lost. And coaching too. There's coaching around in this, all over the world now is really good, and people want to make sure they coach that way in. But you mentioned the physicality of the game. In Canada, if you're not playing at, I think, the AA or the AAA level, the game is played no contact. What do you think about that? Well,
it depends. It comes to I believe it's under 14. Because it changed. It's bantam hockey. There's no hitting until you reach bantam hockey in Quebec, and I don't know if it's all in Canada like that, but that's the way. I think it's a good way. It's a good thing to do, because there's not all the same level. You got to be careful. If you play AA hockey, AAA hockey, that's fine. You have a talent. You're good on your skate. You have the ability to move. But at that age, some grow fast,
right.
Don't grow.
Right.
And they don't have all the same ability on skates, and they can hit each other. They can be fiddle hits. They can be hard hits that can last for long. So for me, Kobe, I think that, you got to reach a certain level of skills to have contact on sports.
For sure.
And that I agree with that 100%.
So can we pivot a little bit to Tampa? You guys are, trade expansion.
Yep, expansion team.
You're coming here as expansion team. to Tampa Bay. Your thoughts, your reservations, maybe.
Like hockey in the South.
What did you think coming here?
Well, I'm gonna, DC, go ahead. You were in the first.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of excited about it. I mean, there was first expansion in a while in the NHL, and I knew I was on the list. I was in Winnipeg at the time, and Mike Hartman and I ended up coming over in a bit of a package deal.
Did you have a preference? Like, you knew there was 2 expansion teams, but one was in Ottawa, one was Tampa Bay. I know Brad's was like crossing his fingers big time that he wasn't going to go to Ottawa.
Yeah, my wife and I are both from the States, so yeah, we kind of when we spent a few winters in Winnipeg, so I think Tampa was probably our first choice. But yeah, it was interesting coming down, and Chico was saying it was just such a new market, and nobody, we were playing out at the fairgrounds, and the newspapers are kind of trying to figure it out and everything. But fans were unbelievable, and it was a great group of guys, and we you had Sean and Rammer and all those guys. But it was a lot different playing in the South compared to Winnipeg. You had the press over you all the time, and every practice, and you had 2 or 3 newspapers, and there'd be 3 or 4 stories. And here, even the day after a game, sometime you weren't sure if you were going to get a story in the newspaper. So it was interesting, but we loved it, and the community was great, and what they've done, it's been fun to follow it. Right from the new rink and what the ownership has done down here, and I mean, it just completely changed downtown. We lived downtown for 3 years, and yeah, it's completely different, and it's kind of followed from the team. So the imprint on this city it's amazing.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, Mr. Vinnick and his group have, like you said, they've reimagined the whole downtown area. And like when guys like yourself come back to town, it's almost like, where am I? Like, this is not the metropolitan city that I remember back in those early 90s. There was a whole lot of nothing downtown, bunch of empty lots, and like it was very warehouses, and like now it's just become a booming city.
But I remember if you look in the archives, there's Phil Espo, there's Hammer, I think there's Brad's there, Zamner, and myself. We all have a shovel.
Yeah,
we're here,
right?
And there's a pod. It's nothing.
Yeah,
it's all open, and we give you just give the first shovel. And it's funny because when Vinny came in, Le Cavalier, 18 years old, he stayed with me for three months about. And I told Vinny, I said, playing in the building, I said, Vinny, you know what? I said, we built it.
Yeah.
I said, you're going to pay for it. and I believe you. I believe you paid for it.
Yeah, you totally did, man. Danton, so you have a pretty interesting lineage. Like you said, you played for Winnipeg. You were part of the 85 NHL entry draft and went on to play 4 years at Michigan State, where you would later become the head coach. What a full circle moment for you.
Yeah, it was. It's been a funny kind of circle. I didn't really think I was going to get into coaching, and it just wasn't in the cards for me. And I was talking to Chico earlier about it. I got hurt late in my career, and God had kind of told me that it was time to stop playing. So it was going to be my last year, and I think hockey coaches and managers were telling me to stop playing, but I got hurt, and the opportunity was there. And Guy Charon asked me if I wanted to come on and stay on as a assistant coach for the rest of the year, and they were paying me anyhow. And I jumped in, and all of a sudden it was 24 years later, and I'd been in, coaching the American Hockey League and NCAA, and coached the U.S. team. And it was a blessing. I loved it. I loved the teaching aspect. I loved coming to the rink, just like the players. And it was an awful lot of fun. And then to finish up at Michigan State and I grew up there. My dad was a professor there for 30 years. So it was a great place to be, and did some good things there. And
how did you know that, you were going to, like, the aspirations to become a coach? Like you said, you knew you had injuries, and you knew that, okay, maybe this is time to hang up the skates, so to speak. But did you know that, like, was there a moment that kind of captivated you, said, this is where I want to go now with coaching?
You know what? I think it was, I did the first year, and like I said, it was at the end of an injury. They owed my contract for the year. And so I stuck around and did it. And I was going to actually move on and do something else. I kind of planned, I had a finance degree, and I had a buddy of mine had a small boutique financial thing in the Grand Rapids that I was going to start working at, and I was studying to do that. And then Bruce Cassidy came in, and Butch and I played together for a little bit, and he took over for Guy, and he called me, and I think it was June, and I was, like I said, I was studying for my Series 7 brokerage thing, and asked me if I wanted to do it. So Deb and I, we talked about it for a little bit, and we're like, well, why not? We really liked it, and hey, there's healthcare, and let's see how it works out.
Benefits, right.
Are you still following the team right now? Like, do you still follow Michigan State?
I follow, like, it's once you're in with some team, like every stop I've been at, I follow those teams and stay in contact with them, and it becomes part of it. Same with the NHL teams. Everywhere you play, there's a little bit of you that's there, and you follow that and take a lot of pride in what's going on. And I know we had a small part within Tampa, but it's the same way. You feel we were here the first few years, and you built a little bit, and so maybe it's just a real small piece, but you always feel part of it.
There's a lot of Lightning fans are excited about one of their prospects at Michigan State, Isaac Howard, who's generating a lot of Hobey Baker buzz right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he should be right in the mix, and I think he's got a great chance. Always helps when you're on a good team, right? It's hard to, we had Taro Hirose came through a few years ago, and he was in the middle of about a 500 team, and he was in the mix. But Isaac Howard's a heck of a player. I mean, he plays hard, he plays fast, he scores goals. He scores goals at big times too, which is that's a good attribute to have. Some guys score a lot of garbage ones when it doesn't mean anything, but he seems to be a guy that.
What are you looking at me for?
I said a lot of goals.
Just went over the 2 playoff goals. Patty Waugh.
So, but he's a good player. He's fun to watch. Yeah.
Chico, you come to Tampa, and I think you were probably the first guy that was really embraced as like a fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
People were enamored by your aura, your style. Can you talk to us about that a little bit, where that came from? Because everything we saw, you see the slick back hair, the bob hair,
the attitude, man.
And you played us with a certain style. And then every fight we had here that I saw, it's the old door slam, when that was kind of almost like your calling card a little bit.
Yeah, well, this is something I came from the North Stars, and Washington also. So there's history of hockey, but you come here and people they want to have fun,
right?
I mean, they want to have fun. They want to come in. A lot of people came in and they weren't hockey knowledge as of today. It wasn't like that back then. So they want to have a good time. And for me, my style of play was like hitting hard and taking care of my teammates. And I wasn't doing something special. I was just being me.
Sure.
And what I realized after a while is that, I was on the billboards, and I was everywhere being marketed. And I couldn't understand because Bradley was scoring like 30, 40 goals. And first pick was Amerlik. And I couldn't understand that why my picture was on the schedule.
Yeah.
Back then there was those
small schedules. Yeah.
And my picture was, so I couldn't understand what was going on. But after a while, people, they adopt you. And Phil used to give me like 100 tickets. Pretty much every game, go Chico, you're in the community, just give it out, and talk to people. And I was doing a lot of community work also. So that's why people maybe adopted me
and they should have.
And I know you guys talked about the small presence with the media, but I talked to John Tucker, and he talked about, you got in with some radio guys.
Yeah.
98 Rock.
98 Rock,
that was kind of maybe adding to your persona.
You did did you do a show on 98 Rock?
It started like once in a while. Then after a while, they wanted me there every week.
Yeah.
So I was there every week, and 98 Rock, and Mike Olivero was there. That's how I met Mike Calta, and
they're all still
they're all still there.
They're here, yeah.
So I used to call the guys, I used to call, like one time I called Crispy, and I knew Crispy could take it. So I called him like 6:37 in the morning, and I asked him why I wasn't on the power play. And I said, people want me on a power play, Crispy. I think you should consider it. And he took it for about 15 minutes. And you know how funny he was, eh? And I couldn't have done that with every coach.
Right.
I wouldn't do that with Mike Keenan, but I did with Crispy. It was great. I called Isabart laughing at his shoes. He had the worst shoes. I called him, wake him up in the morning. So I used to do little things like that. And it worked. People liked it.
For sure. I remember the guy, because I remember Dan Boyle was tied into 98 Rock, and he used to do a show on weekends or whatever, but it's pretty awesome to see that you guys were so entrenched, not only on the ice, but in the community as well. Tell us like a good story about Crispy. I'm sure you both have some history and some stories about Terry.
I always thought the funniest thing was, and I don't know, but he had the little lineup card, and he'd have it on the bench, and he had all the guys' numbers. And if you made a mistake, he'd put a line through your number. You make another mistake, he'd X you out. And if you made a third one, he'd circle it, and then you wouldn't play anymore. So you'd be on the bench, and you'd be sitting there, and all of a sudden you'd hear him yelling at you. He'd be like, Colsey, and the hell are you doing? And you're like, hey, don't circle me. I'm on the bench. Let's not be out there. Let me keep playing.
Yeah.
And he was funny. He had a lot of simple ways about it, but it was, but some interesting things. And actually, coaching later on, you kind of think about it. It's not a bad way to keep track of things. You give him a little rope, and at some point shut it down. But Terry was out. He was so much fun to have around, and just positive, and he'd won a lot, won Stanley Cups as a player, Memorial Cups and Stanley Cups, and great guy to be around. I enjoyed playing for him, and he played me a lot. So
I mentioned Chambers was saying that when they stopped playing and they were coaching their kids, they were like finding themselves using a lot of
Crispies,
his
vernacular sayings.
And they were like, oh my God, what are we doing? We used to make fun of him, kind of tease about this stuff.
Remember when Hammer, when he came into the league, every time Hammerly would get hit, he would stay on the ice. So the trainer would jump on, first pick and take care of him. Right. And after a while, Hammer would get hit, he would stay down. So one time on the bench, Crispy yelled at the trainer, if you effing go on the ice, you're fired. Leave him out there. So Hammer would stay on the ice for about 30 seconds. Then he would realize that nobody would come and get up, come to the bench, So toughen up.
That is great. Yeah. So, I mean, did you guys have any interactions with Rick Peckham? Obviously, he's going into the hall with Brad's tonight. But did you guys have any a relationship with Rick Peckham at all over your time here?
I didn't. I don't think. Yeah. I said obviously know who he is, and
history. Well, yeah, I did because I came regularly after my career here. It's like a second family in Tampa here. So every time I come, I see Rick, and a few times during the games I got interviewed after my career with Rick and Phil, all the guys. So, he's always been a gentleman, and he deserves everything that he's getting today.
So what made you decide to make the leap, and again, from hockey to politics? Because that's really like a jump. And I know you said coming from that community and you wanted to make a difference. But when did you realize in your life that this is the angle I want to go with my life?
Well, you don't decide. I mean, they decide for you. Because when I retired, I started to be on TV. I did 18 years of TV, and I took a lot of stands.
As far as what? Like we're commentating?
About commentating, about education for kids.
Sure.
About traveling, junior hockey, about the after career, about the fighting issues, the violence.
All that, yeah.
The hazing. So I was very vocal, in the public about all of that stuff, and tried to defend the younger generation of hockey players in Quebec. And when the politics, did they see that, they say, oh, the guy played in the NHL, he played for the Montreal Canadiens, he's fighting for causes, he wants to stand up for kids.
Yep.
I mean, we want him.
Yeah.
So they kept calling. So when I was 33 years old, I got the first call. But I thought I was too young for that. I was too,
Right.
I mean, politics, you ask a question, they don't answer, jump over the table. I said, I can't. Yeah. I'm not mature enough to do that. So finally, at 48 years old, they came back again because they came back every 4 years. So then I said, you know what? I think it's time to do it. There's a bunch of stuff that it's not progressing about the safety of the kids, of the players. So I said, I'm going to change things. So they chose.
Did you have to get elected? I got
elected
for you in the whole nine.
Yeah, I got elected the first time in 2018. Awesome. And I got elected a second term in 2022.
Congratulations.
Kissing babies and shaking hands.
Yeah. Well, I don't, I'm not a real politician. I think people, they realize that I don't play that game. I go to work like this.
Yeah.
And I meet my constituents with my jeans, with my flip-flops, with my tattoos. And that's the way I am. Yeah. But some things for sure, I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to defend you. I'm going to leave my life on the street for you guys. And I think they realize that.
What was more difficult? Defending your teammates on the ice or defending your constituents back home?
Well, the thing is, in hockey, you see it coming. And when there's a problem, 30 seconds, it's fixed in hockey.
Right.
Politics, you get hit from behind, you get, you trip, you got backstab, and when it comes, and to fix a problem, it might take 2-3 years. And that's why I got gray hair. In 2018, I had no gray hair. Now I got gray hair.
That's awesome. What are you guys' thoughts of the Four Nations Cup coming up here in a couple weeks? I mean, that's pretty unique.
Yeah, I really like it. I think I was involved in international hockey with the U.S. team for 7 years, and when you get those, the U18s and U20s and the Olympics, and this is just another thing. And when you bring that many good players together, I think it's unbelievable for the game of hockey. It stinks that they have to shut down the league. I'm sure it's kind of weird having that in the middle league, but I might be on the other side of it. I wish Russia had a team in there.
Yeah.
I wish we had a fifth team.
I saw maybe
find a sixth somewhere.
I did see a meme somebody put out that this is what potentially the team Russia would look like. Bro, that was a brutally talented team, a roster that they put together. So I can only imagine if it was the Five Nations Cup, what that would have been like.
I think it's going to look good when the Olympics do happen. And hope, maybe Russia is there. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. But you got teams like Czech Republic, even teams like Germany. Leon Draisaitl is an absolute star. Like, can he carry that team to an Olympic medal? But
they're getting better and better every year. Nations are getting better with good hockey players in the NHL. Just look at us for the women's hockey.
Yes,
the women's hockey, we've had great ambassador.
Yep.
We had Manon. Rayon back then.
Mm-hmm. Trendsetter.
Every little girls wanted to be goalies.
Yeah.
We got good goalies out of that played at the national teams also. Then we have Madame Poulain, Marie-Philippe Poulain. She's a big star. So in Quebec, it's big. I mean, hockey is very, very big, and it's because of that. Because of those, and they're getting better. And same thing with Germany. Same thing with other countries. We have stars here in the NHL that does well.
Well, it's amazing too, just to see the development here in Tampa, and obviously, Mr. Vinnick and Phil, that was a huge thing, was to get sticks and balls into every kid's hands. Yeah. They want to see the stick ball on the street in the neighborhood, and that's how you grow your fan base. And honestly, they've done such a remarkable job, Jay Feaster, over the last, I would say decade, because literally you can't drive in this city anywhere and not see a Go Bolt sign or see something lightning oriented. We have become a hockey city, which again is a far cry from '93 when you guys were playing in a barn at the fairgrounds. So it's a pretty remarkable come up, as they say, to see the changes and how the organization has become so successful. But the league as well, like you said, doing these ancillary events, Four Nations Cup, the Winter Classic, the Stadium Series, they're always trying to invent and do things to grow the game. And that's, I think, resonated in our Tampa Bay area as well. And you guys were part of that foundation. So it's pretty awesome to have you guys back here to celebrate Brad's and Rick getting into the Hall of Fame. And I know it's a very busy weekend for you guys, and we don't want to keep you guys too long, but we do a segment on the show called The Hat Trick. It's powered by our friends at Highlight IPA. So what it is we have AI, because we're talking about technology. We have AI generated questions 1 through 100. Kobe and I didn't look at these. These are completely generated. So we need 2 numbers from each of you guys, 1 through 100, and we will ask you the AI questions. So,
I'll take my number 39.
Okay, and
number 10 for Guy Lafleur. Yeah.
And Danton, you, my friend.
I'll go 16 and 24.
All right, 39. Here we go. Okay, Enrico, how did you, while you were playing hockey, how did you handle off-ice distractions?
Oh my God! You know what?
If something was bothering you in your life, how do you?
I would go fishing. I would go fishing, and a lot of times I would, after games, because I lived in St. Pete back then, I would go in, go eat with my wife, and I would go home, and I couldn't sleep because it's your brain's going after a game, and what did I did wrong? What did I do that? Why did he sit me on the third period? You just kind of. So I would take my squids, I would take my my fishing rod, and I would go by the pier there, and I would just throw my line, and I would fish until maybe 2:00 in the morning.
And just got your mind off.
Shut it off exactly, and come back. Okay, I would bring a couple beers too.
Understandably.
We went through that today, but yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah.
All right, Kobe, you're up.
I guess this is a good question for both of you guys too. Is when you turn on a hockey game right now, who do you guys think is a must-watch player? If you're turning on a game, every team's playing. I want to watch this player tonight because I just think he's the most exciting. He's you can't take your eyes off him.
I mean, I think McDavid and probably McKinnon in the same. They're kind of in the same vein. Just how fast and just how they attack, and I don't know how they don't get hurt every time they make a rush up the ice because they're just flying. So those are probably the 2 guys for me that it's hard not to see them. If I see, and they're a few hours west, so a lot of times I'll tape the games that are late, but catch them the next day. But I try and catch those guys as much as I can.
2 very talented.
I agree with DC, but me, I think this phenomenon right now is Ovi, Ovechkin. He just, I had the same thought with the Chelios said, way back when I was going to say, where's the limit for this guy?
Yeah.
How many games is he going to play? Is he going to play until he's 50 years old?
Yeah.
Is he that specimen? Is he that specimen? I think Ovi now, he's that type of guy.
Sure.
Where's the limit for this guy? Is he going to break some records?
Yeah.
Where is he going to stop? You know, and we all have a limit. I mean, our bodies told us one day, you know, you have a limit, but this guy, you're trying to see where's the limit.
Yeah. Game
after game, I can't believe he's still doing the same thing he used to do like 10 years or 15 years ago.
It's pretty remarkable. Yeah. And he's going to break Gretzky's record. The question is it going to be this season or is it going to be next season?
Well, one of the things I find remarkable is how that team, you know, we kind of thought maybe there was going to be a rebuild there, and now they're sitting at the top of the league, and Ovi's, you know, just kind of talks to his, you know, genius as a player and his goal scoring ability, but you know, if you got a top team in the league, you got some leadership as well, right? And I think that sometimes is, you know, maybe overlooked a little bit because he is Russian and you know, he is seen as kind of that superstar guy, but he does bring all that tide from their Stanley Cup teams and being there for so long and the fact that he is chasing greatness. I think guys really rally around him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we thought that nobody would reach Gretzky. Never. You know, with the especially with the type of game that they're playing right now and the goalies, how good they are.
Right.
And I'm not saying the goalies were not good back then because I'm going to get hammered if I say that. But I mean, there's a lot of goals that you could see back then that you will not see today.
Right. Yeah.
And
you might see Poopa come running in here, trying to chop off.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Okay, here we go. Oh, that's a good one too. What did you guys feel was the toughest part of being a professional athlete?
Who's that?
Doesn't matter. You can go for both. It fits for both of you guys, actually.
Yeah.
What was the toughest part?
Probably for me and just probably type of player I was is you just never really knew what was next. You know, you were always preparing. Vacations in the summer, you know, at least with us, you know, there had to be a place to work out. You know, I mean, it was always on your mind. So I was on, I think my last 5 years, I was on 1-year deals and, you know, it'd be August. So that was probably, at least for us as a family. And again, you can get, you know, I want to say we've all been traded, but we've all been traded and Gretzky got traded. So it can happen to anyone, but you know, you could be in it's funny. I've got 3 daughters. They're older now, but every once in a while we'll set up a call, a Zoom call and get everybody together, you know, and just FaceTime, whatever. And so we all get on there and my oldest one, half the time will say, you know, cause it used to be family meeting and they're like, all right, where are we moving? You know, so sure, like you and mom aren't moving, are you? But I think that was hard. Just the stability that just wasn't there.
Yeah.
But you know, you live with it. And I did it the same as a coach. You just don't know. And I guess you get used to it.
I mean, it was a schedule, you know, at first you don't see it, but after a while you have no liberty. You know, you got to follow the schedule. Okay, you got to do this, do that during that time. That month, you got to do this. The other month, you got to do this. Okay, you have a little bit of free time after your season, but still, I'm so tired. I'm so, you know, I need to recuperate. So you don't do anything. You stay in your living room or you play golf, and then you restart again. And then you kind of resent that, you know, for a while at the end of your career. But the funny thing about it is that when you become a normal citizen, you miss that schedule. You're like, oh man, it was so easy with that schedule. Now I don't know what to do. What do I do? What do I eat? How do I work out? You know, you don't know what to do. So that's pretty much what stuff.
I can definitely relate to that. You know, and it's, you know, you get out and you're like, man, I've been told what to do.
Exactly.
Every day,
right? Since we're kids,
you know, since junior hockey, and you show up and that itinerary sitting there in your locker, or that email comes through, and you know, 8 months from now on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock where you are, what you're doing, you know, how you're going to be there. It is a difficult transition for.
Well, you know, how you realize also that you're a regular citizen is that me, after 2 years after my career, the CCM guy rep called me, goes, Chico, we have your specs here for your skates, and we want to put them away, but you want us to do another skate for you before a pair of skates before we put them away. I said, yeah, why don't you do that? So I received the skates at home. Knock on the door, and I got it. COD, $950. That's when you realize that you're not a hockey player anymore. You got to pay for your skates.
That's what they cost.
And that was back then, because I'm sure.
Oh yeah, they're way higher now. Wow, that was a awakening moment for sure. All right, final question, Coach.
DC, you can answer this one first, but in your career, what was the most intense personal rivalry you had with another opponent?
Oh,
is there a guy or guys?
That's I'm trying to think, because I used to back then they'd have like checking forward, so I kind of had to do that, and you kind of get under a guy's skin. We'd shadow, like Crispy'd have you shadow guys and stuff like that. So it was trying to think of a few guys. Probably though it wasn't that situation, but it seemed like every time we played Detroit, and I don't know why this was, but you had Kosher and Probert, and for whatever reason it was like a stick had come up and I'd hit one, and when you hit one, everyone would come out. So there's probably 4 or 5 different incidents, and it was always them. And then Jerry Gallant, who I ended up playing with here, and I don't know why, it just seemed like every time we played those guys or something. And he took care of stuff like that. I started fights, he ended them, but it just seemed like it was always like one of those 3 guys. And then I ended up sitting next to Jerry in the locker room here, and we kind of laughed about it. We ended up getting a fight in the one time, and I was just kind of holding on. He was a lot tougher than me, but he hit me and he broke his thumb on my helmet. And so, and he'd smart off in the locker room. I'd say, remember last time you lipped off, you were out of the lineup for 4 to 6 weeks. So just back off. But it was kind of more, like I said, with me, it wasn't like that type, but it was more of a checking situation. And, you get Gretzky sometimes and Makarov and Calgary and match up against him. So maybe it wasn't a physical matchup, but it was the intensity of the game and trying to shut him down. And Lemieux, and it was a fun time to do something like that. It wasn't super sexy, I guess, in a sense. You're not scoring all that, but game in, game out, that was kind of my challenge. And Brett Hall, guys like that, having to do that. So
well, me, I made a mistake, and I was like 21. I was playing with Washington back then, 22. I fought Dave Brown. And I said, you know what? Geez, big guy back then. Lefty too. I'm like, shit. And I never played heavy. Yeah. And I played at 2'7", 210. I couldn't keep weight on me. I was like a tall, skinny guy. And I fought Brownie, and he fell. I mean, I fell over him, so he looked like he lost.
Yeah.
He was so pissed.
I bet he was.
He goes, we're going back. So I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So for the next maybe 3 or 4 years, 5 years, until he went to San Jose, then he stopped. He looked at me and goes, 3 times. I'm like, are you nuts? So every time we play like Philly or whatever he played, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep the day before the game, the pregame nap. I couldn't eat. I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to go brownie. But after a while, Crispy came to me, goes, Chico, what are you doing? I mean, he doesn't play. I mean, you play your regular shift. Right. You're on the ice, you kill penalties. Why you fight this? I'm like, okay, so coach said so I would just brush him off. What I would make him more pissed off. But that was a great rivalry.
Love it. Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you guys so much for taking the time out this morning. We do know it's an action-packed weekend for Alumni Weekend, Hall of Fame weekend, as we officially induct Brads and Rick Peckham. So we hope you guys have a great weekend catching up and reminiscing with the boys. And Kobe and I truly thank you both for taking the time this morning.
Well, thanks for having us, guys.
Appreciate our friends at Highlight IPA for powering this whole podcast, and we appreciate you guys tuning in once again. We will be back next week with another episode of the Bolts Block Party. We'll catch you then.